The national portion of the real estate exam requires a deep understanding of how a contract actually comes into existence through the offer and acceptance process. For a contract to be valid and binding, there must be a meeting of the minds, which is technically known as mutual assent. This begins with a definite and certain offer, from the offeror to the offeree. On the exam, you will see scenarios where an offer is made and the other party responds with a slight change. This is the most critical area for test takers to master because of the mirror image rule. The mirror image rule states that for an acceptance to be valid, it must be the exact same as the offer, without any changes whatsoever. If a buyer offers $200,000 for a home and the seller accepts that price but moves the closing date by just 1 day, then legally no acceptance has occurred. Instead, that seller has created a counteroffer. You must remember for exam day that a counteroffer performs two distinct legal functions simultaneously. It acts as a rejection of the original offer, and it becomes a brand new offer. This is where the examiners set their traps. They will describe a situation where a seller rejects a buyer's offer by countering with a higher price, and then, when the buyer refuses, the seller tries to go back and accept the buyer's original lower price. On the exam, you must identify that the original offer is legally dead. The seller cannot go back and accept it because their counteroffer terminated the original offer. Another area of confusion is the timing of acceptance and when a contract becomes binding. An offer is not accepted the moment the offeree signs the paper. It is only accepted when that signed acceptance is communicated back to the offeror or their agent. If a seller signs an offer at 10 in the morning, but the buyer does not find out about it until 2 in the afternoon, the buyer still has the legal right to withdraw their offer at 1:30 because communication had not yet occurred. This leads to the concept of revocation. An offeror can revoke or withdraw their offer at any time prior to the communication of acceptance. Even if the offer states it is open for 48 hours, the offeror can still pull it back after 2 hours as long as the other party has not communicated their acceptance. To keep this straight, remember the phrase mirror or murder. If the acceptance does not mirror the offer perfectly, then it murders the original offer and creates a new one. You should also watch out for inquiries versus counteroffers. If a buyer asks if the seller would be willing to include the refrigerator, that is often just an inquiry and does not necessarily terminate the offer. However, if the buyer writes into the contract that the refrigerator must stay, that is a counteroffer. When you see these questions, look for the specific intent to change the terms. If terms are changed, it is a counteroffer and the original offer is terminated. Always focus on the moment of communication as the point of no return for the offeror. Once the acceptance is in the mail or the phone call is made, the offeror can no longer revoke. This is often referred to as the mailbox rule in general contract law, though in real estate it usually requires actual delivery or notice to the agent. Many students get tripped up by the role of the agent in this process. Remember that notice to the agent is legally notice to the principal. If the seller's agent receives the signed acceptance from the buyer's agent, then the contract is generally considered binding, even if the seller hasn't personally seen it yet. Finally, be aware of the difference between a rejection and an expiration. An offer can end because it was rejected by a counteroffer, or simply because the time limit expired. In both cases, the offer is terminated and can no longer be accepted. Understanding these nuances between an inquiry, a counteroffer, and a full mirror image acceptance will ensure you navigate the contract section of the national exam successfully.